The massive ship came down from the sky on a cold morning in December 2247. It was so large that it blocked out the sun over the entire city of Geneva. People stopped in the streets and looked up. Children pointed at the strange metal thing that hung in the air like a mountain that had learned to fly. The ship was called the Covenant of Stars, and it belonged to the Galactic Council for thousands of years. The Council had ruled over hundreds of alien species across the galaxy. They had watched Earth from far away, waiting until humans developed enough technology to be worth talking to. Now that time had come, and they expected this meeting to go exactly like all the others before it. Daniel. Harper stood at the front of the human welcome group. He was a tall man, with gray hair and calm eyes. Before becoming a diplomat, he had been a history professor. He had spent his whole life studying how civilizations rose and fell. He knew that this moment would decide the future of every person on Earth. Beside him stood Admiral Grace Holloway. She was 60 years old, with silver hair and a face that showed no emotion. She had commanded Earth's defense forces for 15 years. She had seen war and peace, victory and loss. Nothing surprised her anymore. But even she felt a small chill as the alien. Ship's door began to open. The aliens who walked out were unlike anything humans had ever seen. Their leader was called Ambassador Kethril, and he belonged to a species called the Valorians. His body was long and thin, almost like a snake that had learned to walk upright. His skin glowed with soft lights that changed color as he moved. Behind him came other aliens of different shapes and sizes, all wearing symbols that marked them as council representatives. Kethril stopped in front of Daniel and looked down at him. The alien was nearly 8 feet tall, and his 4 eyes blinked one at a time as he studied the human before him. "You are the leader of this world?" Kethril asked. His voice came from a small device on his chest that translated his words into English. "I am one of many leaders," Daniel replied calmly. "Humanity does not have a single ruler. We speak together." Kethril made a sound that might have been laughter. "How primitive! You will learn better ways soon enough." The aliens and humans moved inside a large building that had been prepared for the meeting. Hundreds of cameras broadcast the event to every corner of Earth. Billions of people watched as the representative of the Galactic Council began to speak. "Your species has reached a point of development where you must be brought into the galactic community," Kethril announced. "The Council has governed this galaxy for 12,000 years. We have brought order to chaos and peace to war. Now, it is your turn to receive our guidance." Daniel listened carefully. He noticed how Kethril used the word guidance instead of help. He noticed how the alien spoke as if he was doing humanity a favor. "We are honored by your attention," Daniel said. "What exactly does membership in the Council mean for us?" Kethril's skin lights flickered. "You will be granted provisional status. This means you will follow all Council rules without question. Your military ships will not be allowed to leave your home system. You will not build new weapons. You will not expand to new worlds without permission. All your technology must be approved by the Council before you can use it." "And what do we receive in return?" Daniel asked.
"Else you receive protection,"
Kethril answered. "You receive access to trade routes. You receive the knowledge that you are part of something greater than yourselves." Admiral Holloway spoke for the first time. Her voice was hard and cold. "What happens to species that do not accept these terms?" Kethril turned his 4 eyes toward her. For a moment, his lights dimmed to a dark red color. "There are no species that refuse. The Council's terms are not a request. They are simply how things are done." The meeting continued for several hours. The aliens explained rule after rule, restriction after restriction. Humanity would be watched at all times. Council observers would live on Earth and Mars. Human ships would carry tracking devices. Human scientists would submit their work for approval. When it was over, Daniel asked for time to discuss the terms with Earth's governments. Kethril agreed, but his tone made it clear that he expected only one answer. "You have 1 month," the alien said. "Use this time wisely. Every species before you has seen the wisdom of cooperation. After the aliens returned to their ship, Daniel and Grace Holloway walked together through the empty halls of the meeting building. Neither of them spoke until they were certain no one could hear them. "They mean to make us slaves," Grace said quietly. "Pretty words about guidance and protection, but that is what it comes down to." Daniel nodded slowly. "I have studied empires my whole life, Admiral. The Roman Empire, the British Empire, the Mongol Empire. They all said the same things. They all claimed they were bringing civilization to primitive peoples. They all demanded obedience and called it partnership. So what do we do?" Grace asked. "Our military is nothing compared to theirs. I have seen the scans of their weapons. One of their warships could destroy our entire fleet in minutes." Daniel stopped walking and looked out a window at the night sky. Somewhere up there, the alien ship waited for humanity's answer. "We do what humans have always done when faced with a stronger enemy," he said. "We smile and nod and agree to their terms. We become the obedient new members of their council. We let them believe they have one." Grace raised an eyebrow. And then we prepare," Daniel answered. "Quietly, secretly. We learn everything we can about them. We build what we need to build. We make friends with others who might share our feelings. And we wait for the right moment." "That could take years," Grace said. "Decades even." "Humans are patient when we need to be," Daniel replied. "We did not survive ice ages and plagues and world wars by giving up easily. The Council sees a young, weak species ready to be controlled. Let them keep believing that. Let them grow comfortable with their certainty." He turned to face her, and for the first time that day he allowed himself to smile. "One day, Admiral, they will learn the truth about humanity. They will learn that we bow to no one. But that day is not today. Today, we play their game. Tomorrow, we begin preparing for the day when the game changes forever." Grace Holloway looked at the diplomat for a long moment. Then she nodded once, a soldier's acknowledgement of orders received and understood. "I will begin making arrangements," she said. "Hidden facilities, secret programs, things the Council will never see." "Good," Daniel said. "And Admiral, make sure our people understand what we are doing. This is not surrender. This is strategy. The Galactic Council thinks they have found another species to rule. They have no idea what they have actually found." Outside, the alien ship rose slowly into the sky and disappeared among the stars. On Earth below, billions of humans went to sleep that night believing their world had changed forever. They were right. But not in the way the Galactic Council expected. 3 years passed after the Galactic Council came to Earth. On the surface, everything seemed normal. Humanity had accepted the Council's terms and become obedient members of the galactic community. Council observers lived in every major city. Human ships carried tracking devices and stayed within the solar system. Scientists submitted their research for approval and watched. As project after project was rejected, the Council was pleased. Humans were behaving exactly as expected. But beneath the surface, something very different was happening, deep under the ice of Antarctica. In a facility that no Council scanner could detect, Dr. Lucy Brennan worked on projects that would have terrified the alien rulers. She was 45 years old with short brown hair and eyes that always seemed to be thinking about 3 problems at once. Before the aliens came, she had been a physicist working on faster-than-light travel. Now she led a team of 300 scientists who were building humanity's secret future. "The quantum communication system is ready," reported Kevin Cho, her young assistant. He was barely 30 years old, but already one of the smartest engineers on Earth. He can send messages instantly across any distance. The Council's monitoring systems will never detect it. Lucy nodded and made a note on her tablet. "What about the shipyards?" 17 facilities are now operational, Kevin answered. Hidden in asteroid fields, buried under moons, disguised as mining operations. We have completed 47 warships so far. Each one is more powerful than anything the Council has. Wow. This was humanity's greatest secret. While the Council believed they were watching a primitive species slowly learning its place, humans were building a hidden fleet. They were developing weapons based on principles of physics that the Council had never discovered. They were creating technology that would one day change everything. But weapons alone would not be enough. Daniel Harper knew this better than anyone. He spent his days attending council meetings and voting on meaningless decisions. He smiled at alien diplomats and pretended to be grateful for their guidance. He played the role of the loyal human representative so well that even Kethrel began to think of him as harmless. But at night, Daniel did his real work. He had discovered that humanity was not the only species unhappy with council rule. Over centuries, the council had conquered hundreds of civilizations. Most had been forced to give up their independence, their technology, and their pride. Many still remembered what they had lost. One of Daniel's most important contacts was a Thalaxian diplomat named Mira. Her species had been conquered by the council 600 years ago. They had once been a proud people with their own homeworld and their own way of life. Now they were scattered across the galaxy, their culture reduced to exhibits in alien museums. Myra had 4 eyes and blue-green, skin that shimmered like water in sunlight. She met with Daniel in secret whenever she could, always careful to avoid council watchers. "The Valorians destroyed our world because we refused to stop developing weapons," she told him one evening. "They sat in a small room deep underground, far from any alien sensor. They said it was for galactic peace. They said we were a danger to ourselves. Within 10 years, everything we had built was gone." "How many other species share your feelings about the council?" Daniel asked. "More than you might think," Mira replied. "But they are afraid. The council has shown what happens to those who resist openly. Entire civilizations have been erased. Billions of lives lost. Fear keeps everyone in line." Daniel leaned forward. What if someone showed them another way? What if someone proved that the council could be challenged? Myra's 4 eyes studied him carefully. "Are you saying humans plan to fight the council?" "I am saying that humans plan to change things," Daniel answered. "Not through open war. Not through violence unless there is no other choice. But through preparation, through patience, and through building something the council has never faced before." "And what is that?" "Unity," Daniel said simply. "Real unity. Not the false order the council forces on everyone, but a true alliance of species who choose to stand together. The council controls through fear and isolation. They make sure no one trusts anyone else. We will do the opposite." Over the next months, Daniel carefully made contact with representatives of other unhappy species. He was cautious and patient, knowing that one wrong move could expose everything. But slowly, a network began to form. 63 species eventually agreed to support humanity when the time came. Meanwhile, Admiral Grace Holloway was building humanity's military strength. She traveled between hidden bases, inspecting ships and training crews. The men and women who served under her knew they were preparing for something big. Even if they did not know exactly what, Captain Nathan Cole commanded one of the new warships, the Defiance. He was a serious man in his 40s who had lost family members when a council patrol destroyed a human transport ship years ago. He never forgot that day, and he trained his crew to be ready for the moment when they could finally fight back. "The council thinks we are weak," Grace told him during one of her visits. "They see our small official fleet and believe that is all we have. They have no idea about the ships hidden throughout the system. They have no idea about the weapons we have developed." "When do we show them the truth?" Nathan asked. "When the time is right," Grace answered. "Not one day sooner. We will only get one chance at this. If we move too early, they will crush us. If we wait too long, they may discover our secrets. We must be patient and trust in the plan." Nathan nodded. He was a soldier, and soldiers followed orders. But in his heart, he hoped the waiting would end soon. Back on Earth, the council observers reported that humanity continued to be perfectly cooperative. They saw a species that had accepted its place in the galactic order. They saw no signs of resistance or rebellion. They were completely fooled. Dr. Lucy Brennan often worked late into the night, surrounded by equations and holographic displays. Sometimes she wondered if what they were doing was right. They were building weapons of terrible power. They were preparing for a conflict that could cost millions of lives. But then she would remember the council rules that had stopped her research. She would remember the human colony ships that had been destroyed for traveling too far. She would remember the species like the Thalaxians, who had lost everything too. Council control. Humanity had not chosen this fight. The Council had forced it upon them the moment they decided that humans should be ruled rather than respected. "We do not want war," Lucy said to Kevin one night. "But we will be ready for it if war comes. And when it does, the galaxy will see what humans can really do." Kevin looked up from his work and smiled. "The Council has conquered hundreds of species over thousands of years. They think they know how this story ends." "They've never met anyone like us," Lucy replied. "They have never faced a species that smiles while planning a revolution. They made a mistake coming to Earth. One day they will understand just how big a mistake it was." Outside the hidden facility, Antarctic winds howled across endless ice. The Council's satellites passed overhead, seeing nothing unusual. And deep below the frozen surface, humanity continued to prepare for the day when everything would change. The colony ship, New Horizon, left Earth on a bright spring morning with 8,000 people on board. There were families looking for a new life. There were children excited about seeing a new world. There were scientists and farmers and teachers, all of them hopeful about the future. The ship had received permission from the Galactic Council to travel to a planet called Haven 7. It was a small world on the edge of human space. Green and blue like Earth, with air that humans could breathe. Everything was legal. Everything was approved. It did not matter. 3 days into the journey, a Valorian war fleet appeared out of nowhere. 5 massive ships surrounded the New Horizon, their weapons powered and ready. The colony ship had no weapons of its own. It was never designed for combat. Captain Maria Santos stood on the bridge of the New Horizon and tried to understand what was happening. She was a calm woman who had been flying ships for 20 years, but she had never faced anything like this. "Valorian fleet, this is the human vessel New Horizon," she said into the communication system. "We are a civilian ship carrying colonists to an approved destination. Please explain why you have stopped us." The response came from the Valorian commander, a cold voice that showed no emotion. "Your engine signature indicates the use of unauthorized technology. You are in violation of Council regulations. Power down your systems and prepare to be boarded." Maria looked at her engineer in confusion. "Our engines are standard human design. We are not using any forbidden technology." "Our scanners say otherwise," the Valorian replied. "You have 1 minute to comply," Maria tried to argue. She tried to explain. She offered to let them inspect the ship themselves. But the Valorians were not interested in talking. Exactly 60 seconds later, 5 warships opened fire on a defenseless colony vessel. The New Horizon broke apart in seconds. 8,000 lives ended in fire and vacuum. Families who had been eating breakfast together were gone. Children who had been playing in the ship's garden were gone. Every dream, every hope, every plan for the future was gone. There were no survivors. Admiral Grace Holloway received the news while standing on the bridge of her hidden flagship, the Defiance. A young officer brought her the report, his hands shaking and his face pale. Grace read it twice before she could believe what she was seeing. 8,000 people, she said quietly. Her voice was steady, but her eyes had grown cold and hard. They killed 8,000 innocent people. Captain Nathan Cole stood beside her, his fists clenched at his sides. His sister had been on that ship. She had been taking her 2 children to start a new life on a peaceful world. Now, they were all dead, murdered by aliens who claimed to bring peace and order to the galaxy. "The Council's official statement says the ship was carrying weapons," Nathan said bitterly. "They say it was a threat to galactic security." "Lies," Grace replied. "The New Horizon was a transport vessel. Its only cargo was hope." She turned away from the window and walked to the center of the bridge. Around her, officers and crew members watched in silence. They all knew someone who had been on that ship. Every human in space was connected by family, by friendship, by shared dreams of the future. "This changes everything," Grace said. "Send a message to Earth. Use the secure channel. Tell them what happened, and tell them we are ready." On Earth, Daniel Harper received the news during a council meeting. He sat in his seat and listened as Ambassador Cathrell explained that the human ship had been destroyed for violating regulations. The alien's voice was calm, almost bored. To him, this was just routine business. Daniel felt something change inside himself at that moment. For 3 years, he had played the role of the obedient human. He had smiled and nodded and pretended to accept council authority. He had done this because he believed patience would lead to a better outcome. But now, 8,000 of his people were dead. Families had been destroyed. Children had been murdered. And the council expected humanity to simply accept it. He said nothing during the meeting. He kept his face calm and his voice neutral when he spoke. But inside, a fire was burning that would never go out. That night, Daniel called a secret meeting of the United Human Alliance. This was the true government of Earth, a unified body that had formed in secret, while the council believed humans were still divided by old national borders. Representatives from every nation gathered in an underground chamber far below the surface. "You all know what happened," Daniel said to the assembled leaders. "The council murdered 8,000 of our people and called it law enforcement. They expect us to bow our heads and accept this. They expect us to be good, obedient subjects." He paused and looked around the room. He saw anger in every face. He saw grief and pain and a burning desire for justice. For 3 years, we have prepared. We have built ships and weapons. We have made allies among other species. We have done everything necessary to be ready for this moment. Now I ask you, is it time? President Catherine Miller of the North American Federation stood up. She was a small woman with fierce eyes and a voice that carried the weight of billions of lives. "Those were our people on that ship," she said. "Our families, our children. The council thinks they can murder us whenever they want, and we will do nothing. I say we prove them wrong." One by one, other leaders stood and spoke. They spoke of the relatives they had lost. They spoke of the years of hidden preparation. They spoke of the future they wanted to build. The vote was unanimous. Every nation on Earth agreed. The time for pretending was over. Daniel Harper stood before them one last time. "Tomorrow, I will address the Galactic Council. I will show them who we really are. I will show them what we have built. And I will give them a choice: change their ways or face the consequences. What if they choose to fight?" Asked the representative from the European Union. Daniel smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Then they will discover that the primitive species they thought they were controlling has become something they never imagined. They will learn that humanity does not break. We do not bow. We do not forget. And we do not forgive those who murder our children. In hidden bases throughout the solar system and beyond, human ships powered up their engines. Crews who had trained for years prepared for the mission they had always known was coming. Weapons systems that the Council had never seen came online for the first time. Dr. Lucy? Brennan watched from her Antarctic facility as the final preparations were made. Her hands trembled slightly as she authorized the activation of systems she had spent years building. "We never wanted this," she said to Kevin Cho. "We just wanted to be left alone, to explore and grow and live in peace." "The Council made that impossible," Kevin replied. "They decided we would be slaves or enemies. There was never a third choice." Lucy nodded sadly. "Then let us show them what happens when they make enemies of humanity." Above Earth, the stars seemed to shine brighter than usual. Somewhere out in the darkness, a hidden fleet moved into position. And on 1,000 worlds across the galaxy, alien species who had secretly allied with humanity received the signal they had been waiting for. The game was about to change. Forever. The Great Chamber of the Galactic Council was the largest room in the known galaxy. It could hold representatives from over 400 species, and on this day, nearly all of them were present. The ceiling rose so high that clouds sometimes formed inside the building. The walls were covered with symbols representing every civilization that had ever joined the Council. Willingly or not, Ambassador Cathrell called the session to order with a strike of his ceremonial staff. His bioluminescent skin glowed with confident colors as he looked out over the assembled delegates. This was supposed to be a routine meeting, nothing special, nothing unusual. Then Daniel Harper raised his hand and requested permission to speak. Kethril was slightly surprised. The human representative rarely spoke during these meetings. He usually just sat quietly and voted the way he was told. But there was something different about him today. His eyes were harder, his posture straighter. He looked like a man who had finally stopped pretending. "The human representative is recognized," the council speaker announced. Daniel stood up slowly. Behind him, a holographic display activated, filling the space above the chamber floor with images. Several alien diplomats gasped when they saw what appeared. "Distinguished members of the council," Daniel began, his voice calm and clear. "For 3 years, you have believed humanity to be an obedient, primitive species grateful for your guidance. You have believed that we accepted your authority without question. You have believed that we knew our place." He paused and let the silence build. "Today, I am here to correct those beliefs." The holographic display changed to show a fleet of warships. They were sleek and powerful, designed unlike anything the council had ever seen. The image showed over 2,000 vessels arranged in perfect formation. "What you are seeing is the first human expeditionary fleet," Daniel continued. "These ships are currently positioned at 17 strategic locations throughout council space. They have been there for months. Your sensors never detected them." Kethrel's skin flared with alarm. "Impossible. Our monitoring systems cover every sector. No ships could move undetected. Your monitoring systems detect what we allow them to detect," Daniel replied simply. "Your understanding of physics has certain gaps. Ours does not." The chamber erupted in noise as dozens of species began talking at once. Some were angry, some were frightened, and some were secretly pleased. Daniel waited patiently for the noise to die down. "There is more," he said. The display changed again. This time, it showed communication logs, secret treaties, and evidence of council manipulation spanning thousands of years. It showed species that had been destroyed for minor violations. It showed technologies that had been suppressed because they threatened council power. It showed the truth that the rulers of the galaxy had hidden for millennia. "You have called yourselves peacekeepers," Daniel said. "You have claimed to bring order to chaos, but the truth is simpler and uglier. You are conquerors. You are oppressors. You have built your power on the suffering of hundreds of civilizations." Kethril finally found his voice. "You dare accuse the council of wrongdoing? You are nothing but primitives who should be grateful we even speak to you. Your species would still be living in caves without our guidance?" Daniel smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Would we? Let me show you something." The display changed once more. This time, it showed technical diagrams of human technology. Energy weapons that could cut through council shields like paper. Engines that allowed instant travel across the galaxy. Communication systems that were completely undetectable. Medical technology that could cure diseases the council had never solved. "In 3 years of supposed submission, we developed all of this," Daniel explained. "We did it while you watched us, while your observers lived among us, while your scanners monitored our every move, and you never saw any of it." He let that sink in before continuing. "We also made friends. 63 species have agreed to support a new galactic order. They are tired of living under council control. They remember what they lost when you conquered them. They want something better." Several council members tried to use their communication devices, attempting to call for military support. Nothing happened. Their signals simply disappeared. Admiral Grace Holloway's voice came through the chamber speaker system. "Broadcast from somewhere far away. This is Admiral Holloway of the Human Defense Force. All council military vessels within range of our positions have been disabled. We have not harmed anyone. We have simply made sure that this conversation can continue without interruption." Kethrel's skin had turned a dark purple color, a sign of extreme anger and fear in his species. "This is an act of war. The council will crush you. We have ruled this galaxy for 12,000 years. We have destroyed civilizations far more powerful than yours." Daniel shook his head slowly. "You misunderstand us, Ambassador. We are not here to start a war. We are here to end one. The war you have been fighting against free species for thousands of years ends today. What do you want?" demanded the representative from the Korvax Collective, a species known for their logical thinking. We want change, Daniel answered. Real change. The council as it exists will be dissolved. In its place, we will build something new. A true federation where every species has equal voice. Where expansion is decided together, not dictated by the powerful. Where technology is shared, not suppressed. Where no one lives in fear of being destroyed for wanting to be free. And if we refuse? Kethril asked. Daniel was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was heavy with sadness and determination. You murdered 8,000 of my people, he said. Families, children, innocent civilians who had done nothing wrong. You killed them because you could. Because you thought no one would stop you. Because you believed we were too weak to matter. He looked directly at Kethril. If you refuse to change, if you choose to fight instead, then you will discover exactly how wrong you were about humanity. Our fleet will move on council installations throughout the galaxy. Our weapons will take apart your defenses like they were made of paper. And our allies will rise up on 100 worlds to support us. The chamber was completely silent now. Even Kethril had nothing to say. But we do not want that, Daniel continued. Destruction has never been our goal. We want to build something better, not burn down what exists. So I am offering you a choice. Accept change and be part of a new future. Or resist and face the consequences. Mira, the Thalaxian diplomat who had secretly helped humanity for years, stood up in her section of the chamber. Her 4 eyes shone with tears. My people lost everything to the council, she said. Our world, our culture, our freedom. For 600 years, we have lived as ghosts, remembered but not respected. The humans offer us something the council never did. Ope. Other delegates began to stand as well. Species that had been conquered, oppressed, and forgotten raised their voices in support of change. The chamber filled with sounds of agreement from dozens of civilizations. Kethril looked around at the shifting loyalties and realized that his power was crumbling. The council had ruled through fear, and suddenly that fear was gone. The humans had shown everyone that the rulers of the galaxy could be challenged. You have made your point, Kethril said finally, his lights dimming to defeated colors. What exactly do you propose? Daniel allowed himself to feel a small moment of relief. There would still be much work to do, many negotiations to complete, many details to settle. But the hardest part was over. The galaxy had seen humanity's strength and heard humanity's vision. I propose we talk, Daniel said. Really talk, as equals, about what kind of future we want to build together. I propose we learn from the mistakes of the past instead of repeating them. I propose we give every species in this galaxy the freedom and respect they deserve. He looked out at the hundreds of alien faces watching him. The Galactic Council thought they ruled us. They were wrong. Now, let us show them, and each other, what true cooperation looks like. The negotiations would take months. There would be arguments and setbacks and difficult compromises. But in that moment, standing in the great chamber where empires had ruled for millennia, Daniel Harper knew that everything had changed forever. Humanity had spoken, and the galaxy had listened. 7 months passed after Daniel Harper stood before the Galactic Council and changed everything. 7 months of negotiations, arguments, compromises, and careful planning. 7 months of building something that had never existed before in the history of the galaxy. The signing ceremony. It took place on a space station orbiting a neutral world. Representatives from over 300 species had gathered to witness the birth of a new era. The old council chambers had been abandoned, replaced by a new building designed by architects from 50 different civilizations working together. Daniel Harper stood at the central podium, looking out at the assembled delegates. He was tired. The past months had aged him in ways that showed in his face and his movements. But his eyes were clear and bright, filled with hope for the future. Beside him stood Admiral Grace Holloway, Dr. Lucy Brennan, Captain Nathan Cole, and Kevin Cho. They had all played crucial roles in bringing humanity to this moment. Now they would witness the result of their work. The document before Daniel was called the Charter of the Galactic Federation. It was the result of countless hours of discussion between species that had once been enemies, victims, and oppressors. Every word had been argued over, every phrase carefully chosen. The charter established simple but powerful principles. Every species would have equal voice in Federation decisions. No civilization would be forced to give up its independence. Technology would be shared freely, with safeguards against misuse. Military force would only be used in defense, never for conquest. And most importantly, the Federation would exist to serve its members, not to rule them. Mira was the first to sign. She picked up the ceremonial stylus with trembling hands and wrote her name in the flowing script of the Phylaxian people. Tears ran down her blue-green face as she completed the signature. "My people waited 600 years for this day," she said, her voice breaking with emotion. 600 years of hoping that someday, somehow, things would change. Thank you for giving us that change. One by one, other delegates came forward to sign. Species that had been conquered by the old council added their names. Species that had secretly supported humanity's revolution stepped forward proudly. Even some former council members, those who had recognized the need for change, signed the charter. Ambassador Kethril did not sign. He had lost too much power to accept the new order. But he watched from a viewing gallery, his bioluminescent skin dim and gray with defeat. Beside him stood a few other representatives who had refused to join the Federation. "You have won," Kethril said to Mira when she visited him after the ceremony. "The council is finished. Are you satisfied?" Myra looked at him with her 4 eyes, and for a moment she felt something like pity for the alien who had once been so powerful. "The council destroyed my world," she replied. "They erased my people's history and scattered us across the stars. For 600 years, we lived as servants in an empire that never respected us." She paused, choosing her next words carefully. "But the humans did not come seeking revenge. They did not want to punish you for what you did. They wanted to build something better. So no, I am not satisfied by your defeat. I am hopeful for what comes next." Kethril made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. "You truly believe this Federation will be different? Give it time. Someone will seek power. Someone will try to control others. That is the nature of civilization," perhaps Mira admitted. "But we will try anyway. That is the nature of hope." In the main chamber, Daniel Harper prepared to give the final speech of the ceremony. He had spent days writing and rewriting his words. Wanting to capture exactly what this moment meant, the chamber fell silent as he stepped to the podium. Hundreds of alien faces watched him, representatives of species that had been strangers or enemies just months ago. 3 years ago, the Galactic Council came to Earth, Daniel began. They looked at humanity and saw a primitive species ready to be controlled. They expected us to bow like all the others before us. They expected us to accept our place at the bottom of their order. He paused, letting the memory of those early days fill his mind. They were wrong. Not because humans are stronger or smarter than other species. Not because we had better weapons or technology. They were wrong because they did not understand what we truly value. His voice grew stronger as he continued. Humans value freedom. We value the right to make our own choices, to build our own future, to dream our own dreams. We fought wars against each other over these values for thousands of years. We struggled and suffered, and learned hard lessons about what happens when power is concentrated in the hands of a few. Around the chamber at all the different species listening to him, Council thought they could control us by taking away our freedom. Instead, they united us. They made us realize that the freedom we value for ourselves must be extended to everyone. A galaxy where some species are masters and others are slaves is not a galaxy we can accept. Daniel lifted the signed charter for everyone to see. This document represents a promise that we will do things differently, that we will listen to each other instead of commanding, that we will share instead of hoard, that we will protect the weak instead of exploiting them, that we will build a future together instead of fighting over the ruins of the past. He set the charter down gently. Will it be easy? No. We come from different worlds with different histories and different values. We will argue. We will disagree. We will sometimes fail to live up to our promises. But as long as we keep trying, as long as we remember why we came together in the first place, we will find a way forward. Daniel's voice softened for his final words. The Galactic Council thought they ruled us. They thought humanity would bow like all the others. They were wrong. We did not bow. We stood up, and we invited everyone else to stand with us. He looked directly into the cameras that were broadcasting this moment to every inhabited world in the galaxy. Today, we are no longer subjects of an empire. We are partners in a federation. We are equals working toward a shared future. And together, there is nothing we cannot achieve. The applause began slowly, then built to a thunder that shook the walls of the chamber. Species that had never worked together celebrated side by side. Old enemies shook hands in tentacles and claws. For one perfect moment, the galaxy felt united in hope. Later that night, Daniel stood alone on an observation deck watching the stars. Grace Holloway found him there, 2 glasses in her hand. "You should be celebrating with the others," she said, offering him a drink. Daniel accepted it with a tired smile. "I will. I just needed a moment to think." "About what?" He gestured toward the infinite darkness beyond the window. "About how much work we still have to do. Signing the charter was the easy part. Making the Federation actually work will take decades of effort." Grace nodded, understanding completely. "But we will do it." "Humans are stubborn that way," as Daniel agreed. "We are." They stood in comfortable silence for a while, watching the stars that humanity had once only dreamed of reaching. "Do you think the people on the new horizon would be proud?" Grace asked quietly. Daniel thought about the 8,000 people who had died because the Council refused to see humanity as equals. Their deaths had been the breaking point, the moment when everything changed. "I think they would want us to build something worth dying for," he finally answered. "A galaxy where their children's children can grow up free. Where no one has to live in fear of being destroyed for wanting something better." Grace raised her glass. "To the new horizon. And to everyone who sacrificed for this day. To the future," Daniel added. They drank together as the stars wheeled slowly past. Endless possibilities shining in the dark. The Galactic Council had thought they ruled humanity. They had learned otherwise. And now, working alongside species from across the galaxy, humans would help Buell.